Welcome to the CMG Distribution Intelligence Dashboard. This is a portfolio analytics tool I built in Sigma Computing about Create Music Group, a music distribution company that manages over 75,000 artists across platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and TikTok. The data is fictional. Let me start with the executive overview. At the top, you can see the dynamic headline: 714 active artists across 8 genres generating 7.8 billion total streams. This text updates automatically when I apply any filter. The KPI strip gives leadership a 5-second portfolio scan. Total streams at 7.82 billion. Net revenue at $17 million. That's after platform and distributor fees. 714 active artists on the roster. A save rate of 4.55%, which is right in the healthy range of 3 to 5%. This tells us listeners are saving tracks to their libraries, a strong signal of fan engagement. And a recoupment rate of 16%, meaning 16% of artists who received advances have earned back their investment. Below the KPIs, we have the monthly streams trend. You can clearly see seasonal patterns. There's a significant spike in October 2024 as new catalog was on board, a holiday bump in December, and a consistent dip in January as listeners return to their routines. This seasonality is critical for planning marketing spend and release timing. On the left donut, we see stream share by platform. Spotify dominates at around 36%, followed by Apple Music at 18% and YouTube Music at about 16%. TikTok accounts for roughly 10% of streams, but as we'll see on the DSP Economics page, its revenue contribution is disproportionately lower. The artist tier distribution donut shows our portfolio composition. The majority of artists are in the developing and emerging tiers. That's expected. The key question for leadership is, are we successfully nurturing artists from the bottom tiers into the top? That pipeline is the growth engine. And finally, the top 10 artists by streams. The left navigation lets me jump to any deeper analysis page. Let me click into Artist Deep Dive. This page lets us drill into any individual artist's performance. I've selected Blaze Moon, who's showing 10 million total streams. The KPI strip updates dynamically for the selected artist. These are all filtered to this single artist. The page uses a tab container with 4 views. On the Overview tab, we have the monthly streams trend for this artist. You can see the streaming trajectory over time, with peaks that likely correspond to new releases or playlist placements. The donut on the right breaks down how listeners discover this artist. Switching to the Tracks tab, we get a detailed table of every track by this artist sorted by total streams. The data bars give a quick visual comparison, and the conditional formatting highlights engagement quality. On the Platforms tab, we see Spotify leading with 3.8 million streams for this artist, followed by Apple Music and YouTube Music. The stacked bar on the right shows the listener type breakdown, the mix of premium versus free tier listeners across each platform, which directly impacts revenue per stream. And finally, the Info tab gives us the artist's profile. Blaze Moon is an electronic EDM artist in the techno subgenre, classified as established tier, signed to the Nation label on a full label contract. They're based in the US and were acquired through referral. Their top listener cities are Mumbai, London, and Bogota, showing genuine global reach. This tab design lets A&R managers, marketing teams, and artist relations quickly assess any artist's health without building separate reports. Moving to streaming and catalog, this is the portfolio level analysis page. Right away, notice the alert banner at the top. It's flagging 5 tracks with suspicious streaming patterns and potential bot activity. This is a dynamic formula that counts tracks where the save rate is below 0.5% and the skip rate is below 3%. Patterns that indicate bot-generated streams rather than real listeners. Bots don't save tracks and they don't skip, they just play straight through. Platforms like Spotify actively penalize labels with detected bot streams, so this kind of detection matters. The KPIs show 495 million total streams for the current period, over 504,000 active tracks, and an 83.4% completion rate, meaning most listeners finish the songs they start. All 3 KPIs include month-over-month comparisons so you can see the direction of change. Now the hero chart, the Pareto concentration analysis. This is probably the most important analytical visualization in the entire dashboard. The blue bars show each artist's total streams in descending order. The yellow cumulative line shows what percentage of total streams you've accounted for as you move left to right. You can see that the line hits about 50% around the 25th artist, meaning just the top 25 artists out of 750, roughly 3%, generate half of all streams. This power law distribution is typical in music, but it represents real concentration risk. If a top artist like Gia churns to another distributor, the impact is disproportionate. Below that, the genre share chart shows how streaming volume distributes across genres over time. The stacked area is normalized to 100%, so you can see if any genre is gaining or losing share. The stream source donut breaks down how listeners discover music. about 40% through on-demand search, 25% algorithmic, and the rest through editorial and user playlists. The scatter plot at the bottom is a track performance matrix. Each dot is a single track, plotted by total streams on the x-axis and save rate on the y-axis. Color indicates genre. This is essentially a BCG matrix for music. Tracks in the upper right are stars, high volume with strong engagement. Upper left are hidden gems, great engagement but low discovery, suggesting they're undermarketed. Lower right are cash cows, lots of streams, but listeners aren't saving, which suggests passive listening rather than true fandom. This page reveals what I think is the most important business insight in music distribution, the volume revenue paradox. 4 KPIs at the top, 7 platforms, a blended revenue per stream of about 1.4 cents for 195 million total streams and 1.08 million in net revenue. Each has month-over-month sparklines. The hero scatter plot tells the entire story. Each bubble is a platform. The x-axis is total streams, volume. The y-axis is net revenue, dollars. And the bubble size represents revenue per stream. The bigger the bubble, the more each stream is worth. Look at the positioning. Spotify sits in the upper right, highest volume and highest total revenue. Apple Music is interesting. It has less than half of Spotify's volume, but generates comparable revenue because its per stream rate is nearly double. That's the larger bubble size you can see. And then there's TikTok. It drives significant volume, but its revenue is minimal. The annotation says it all. TikTok generates roughly 10% of volume, but less than 1% of revenue. This isn't a criticism of TikTok. It's a discovery platform, not a monetization platform. The strategic insight is that you need both social platforms for audience growth and premium platforms for revenue. Your marketing strategy should optimize for both simultaneously. The revenue per stream bar chart below confirms this ranking. Apple Music leads at about 6.5 cents per stream, followed by Deezer and Amazon Music. Spotify sits in the middle. TikTok and Pandora are at the bottom. The reference line shows the portfolio average, and the premium versus free split at the bottom explains why these rates differ. Apple Music is essentially 100% premium subscribers. There's no free tier. Spotify is around 60% premium, 40% free. TikTok is 100% UGC. The higher the premium ratio, the higher the per stream payout, because subscriber revenue pools are larger than ad-supported pools. Content ID is YouTube's system for identifying and monetizing music when it appears in third-party videos, gaming streams, vlogs, tutorials, cover videos. We're tracking about 1,930 claims total, with 1,296 of those monetized, meaning we're earning ad revenue from them. Total Content ID revenue is $123,000 with an RPM, meaning revenue per 1,000 views of $2.11. The dispute rate sits at 15%. Notice the dispute rate KPI uses an inverted direction. The green arrow would indicate a decrease, because fewer disputes is better. Revenue by video category shows music videos generating the most Content ID revenue, followed by gaming and vlog content. This makes sense. Gaming streamers and vloggers frequently use music as background, and Content ID catches those uses automatically. The claim type donut shows roughly 80% of claims are set to monetize, while about 20% are set to track only. This page helps the operations team understand where Content ID revenue comes from and where disputes are concentrated, so they can prioritize resolution efforts on the highest value claims. The final page is the finance view, following the money from gross revenue all the way to net payout. Gross revenue sits at $1.81 million. Revenue per stream is approximately 0.2 of a cent. And critically, $1.08 million is currently outstanding. That's the pending and accrued revenue that hasn't been paid yet. This is normal in music distribution, where payment lags run 3 to 6 months, but finance needs to track it closely. The Sankey diagram, the revenue flow chart, is the centerpiece of this page. It visualizes how money flows from each platform into the 3 payment statuses: paid, pending, and accrued. You can trace, for example, how Spotify's revenue splits across the 3 statuses. The wider the flow, the more money. The commentary below explains that from every dollar of gross streaming revenue, about 30 cents goes to the platform, 10 to 15 cents to the distributor, and 55 to 60 cents reaches the net revenue pool for artist and label splits. This gives the finance team immediate visibility into cash flow, which platforms have paid, which are pending, and how much is still accruing from recent months. Welcome to the CMG